live stream. Okay. Come on.
All right. After a sleepless night, I think. Are we in the green room?
Good morning, everybody.
Boy, and I say sleepless night because listen, we got to start international.
Sleepless night, I think. Are we in the green room?
Oh, hang on, we got a little echo coming.
Boy, can I say sleep?
Oh, there we go.
All right. No, listen, and we have a great guest today, and I'll let Ruta introduce.
Yeah.
And then listen, we got to start international today, of course.
Yeah,
and,
awful day.
And
Just
it hits
awful day.
home. Well, when
It
the-
hits home.
you know what? Listen, with each week in the green room, life changes so fast, as we know, in 2022 with
It
COVID,
does.
of course, and this and that. But now, listen, this is different. You know, freedom is freedom. Listen, Rudy, you speak to it because listen,
It's
you're,
hard
you
for me
know,
today.
I know, I know it is. Listen, we have a great guest today, and I don't want to mispronounce names. Okay, so it's Jordan
Letcher.
right? Yep. And listen, fantastic guest. And the reason we have him in today is that, you know, and Jordan, not to, you know, once again, Sarasota Pride. Don't let me mess up anything because I didn't read what Don wrote down about all the great things that you do.
He's the president of Project Pride.
Project Pride. That's
He's
what I was
also a
looking for.
former first responder, police officer.
Awesome. Where I was
So-
going was that, listen, we welcome you into the green room. We've had Carlos Guillermo Smith in the green room. We've had Representative Andrew Lerner in the green room, Nikki Fried herself, any of which would have loved to have been here to speak about the lunacy in
Oh my
Tallahassee.
God. Well, yeah, let's go to
that we're all
Tallahassee. At the
watching.
end, we'll do Ukraine.
All right.
That
Yeah,
helps
fair
them.
enough. That'll let you get your emotions back together a little bit, you know. But listen, Jordan, welcome. And you know,
Thank you.
listen, I just, you know, we're so honored to have you. And as Ruta said, you're a past, not working still as a safety officer, but I know you were a police officer in the past, right?
Right, I was a police officer in the past, yeah.
Awesome. So you bring so many perspectives. And, you know, once again, as a gay American, you know, we're so honored to have you to speak personally about what you see is the hate.
Well,
And I'm going to call it for what it
it
is.
is hate,
It's
but
hate.
Jordan's lived through it. I mean,
It is. That's why I'm so honored to have him here because we can't speak to it.
No, what he's gone through and fights for LGBTQ rights. I think Jordan's a pillar for Floridians.
Give the right introduction, Ruta, because I know
Yeah,
you.
so
I know you
I'll
know
let
the
you
past
introduce.
story.
No, I just I'm honored to have Jordan on. He's been a fighter for LGBTQ rights, and you know, he himself has a son. He and his husband had to actually, you know, fight for these rights, and they have a beautiful baby boy that they're raising together. They're a loving family. And
Let's start this way, Jordan. You've been involved in Florida and the movement and getting the freedoms that you deserve and inclusionism for how many years, and how hard has it been in Florida? Because listen, I'm an Ohioan, and my point about this week is Florida's my adopted state, but it's awfully damn hard to say that you're proud to be a Floridian when you see what they're doing up in Tallahassee about hate and non-inclusion. So why don't you go a little historical for us, you know, Jordan, tell us from whence we, you know, come in this state, because I don't know the history, quite frankly.
Yeah, you know, so my husband and I were married in 2015, and the reason being was prior to that, it was illegal. When we got together, I was actually still a police officer in Texas, and he was living here in Florida. And we met randomly on a tram to baggage claim in Las Vegas. So we sort of joked that things that happen in Vegas don't always stay in Vegas. And we got back to Florida. And, you know, after years of being together, we knew we wanted to have a family. So we took that first step and hit a brick wall, because in Florida, you had to be married in order to participate in a surrogacy, but we couldn't get married. So that meant we had to first change the marriage laws. And so I was, you know, one of 100 first responders, you know, as part of a case against then a Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, who wanted to stay a federal Judge Hinkle's ruling that the marriage ban in Florida was unconstitutional. And so, you know, I had felt, hey, here I was, a police officer, granted in another state, but then when it's my turn to enjoy some rights, they were denied. And so after that, you know, occurred, we started flying out to California because we could start the surrogacy process there. And it took us 21 months, you know, racked up 30,000 miles back and forth, you know, to have our son. And even after we were married, before it was completely legal throughout the states, Florida was like the 34th state to finally legalize it. And when I'd go back to visit my old apartment or friends in Texas, we would take off in Florida, a married couple, and land in Texas where our marriage wasn't recognized. So it was really bizarre. And you know, my concern is we call ourselves the United States, but we're really 50 separate countries with the same denomination of currency. And that's really all that binds us right now.
Very true.
Wow.
And I think though it's sad though, like I think you fought for, you know, your right to raise a son, and now the way I feel is Florida now is intervening on behalf of your son to say what can be talked about in schools. And I think this is an outrage. I think for any school to start saying, like, you know, if the teacher starts talking about, you know, if a child goes into the classroom and says, you know, I have two dads, that the teacher might be penalized if they address that. And I think that's outrageous. It's like basically saying that doesn't exist, or you're hiding it, or it's crazy. And the poor children who are in, you know, are just children, and they deserve to know, you know, there's different mommies and daddies, and they're being raised in love. And now like this bill, it just seems so ridiculous to have to say, like, to even punish a teacher for discussing this in a classroom.
I think Representative Smith,
outrageous.
I think Representative Smith, and thank God for Carlos. Listen, and I call him friend, and I'm proud to. And he's a lion there, okay, up in Tallahassee. He shed tears over this on the House floor. And I thought what he said was so profound. There is no age, be it third grade or under, or third grade or over, that it's not appropriate to talk about who is on the earth living a normal life with their genetics, and listen, the thought that anything, you know, Jordan, what's interesting to me, and Ruta and I were talking about it yesterday, the kids are smarter than the legislators. What I've learned because of, you know, now you start to talk and ask, the kids essentially, when they're about 10-ish or 11 or 12, and I know Don's got kids in this age group, they literally talk amongst themselves to a certain extent. And it's not a big deal.
That's it.
No, yeah. I mean, our son, he's 5.5. And of course, he'll get a question, well, what do you mean you have two dads? And he just explains it the way we've taught him, that, you know, families might look different, but they're all full of love. And we have books about it, about, you know, whether, and that's actually factually true. Right now, you know, less than half of families are quote unquote traditional families where, you know, they're a heterosexual, you know, same race kind of, you know, it's completely changed. And so you can't legislate the gay away from kids, right? I mean, kids are either part of the LGBT community or not. The only question is whether you're going to let them live their authentic self, or, you know, or shove them in the closet.
And the thing is, suicide rates are so high among, you know, kids.
No, the stats are there.
The stats are there.
And the homeless rate, okay, amongst teenagers, you know, right. And many, and listen, there was one cheer amongst this complete idiocy, and I'll call it idiocy. There was one cheer that, believe it or not, there was an amendment that was calling for the teachers to be required to out, a child to a family who the child would tell the counselor or the teacher that my family will throw me out. I've been sexually abused. Okay.
It's sick. It's
so somehow the Democrats, and I'm going to call it that, the Democrats, because this is a partisan bill, and we're going to get into that in a second, Ruta. You can pinch me when it's appropriate, because we promised ourselves we were going to try to not go too far on this. But we personally know the people in Tallahassee. We know our leaders. We know many of them. And Jordan, you and I were talking about it a little bit before getting on camera. You can say your piece, and please do. We know that these people don't believe in this necessarily, but somehow, because Governor DeSantis, and I'll call him out, okay, he still hasn't spoken against the Nazi demonstration yet in Orlando, and he won't. And he won't. And there was a news conference that I love that Nikki Fried led with Carlos and Michelle Rayner. I think Chev was there as well. And Michelle Rayner said it. Governor DeSantis, you don't like me. You don't
He
want me
doesn't like
here.
anybody that's not like him.
Right.
And unfortunately, he's dictating that all the way down.
And it's going all the way down. And I'm incensed by my leaders, my representatives, okay, voting for this trash.
It is
And
trash.
it's trash.
It is. And, one of the things that I sometimes sit back and math doesn't lie, right? And so you've got statistics where 42% to 52% of LGBTQ youth have either attempted suicide or seriously contemplated it. So when you take a step back and you look at our pro-life legislature, you ask how many bills have they passed to lower that suicide rate? That answer is zero.
Zero.
But they're
Hang on, can I do
passing
the
bills
pro-life, please? Yeah.
Right, and they're passing bills to highlight how kids are different and families are different. And what's that going to do to that suicide rate? Right now, 66% of LGBTQ youth say they don't feel comfortable coming out at home, which is why school has to be that safe space. And what's being taken place in Tallahassee is this assumption that, parents know best. Parents need to make choices. Well, last time I checked, we have Child Protective Services for a reason. And that's because parents don't always make the best choices for kids. So you're sort of operating with your head in the sand if you think that parents are always going to make the best choices for the kids. Politicians certainly are not. They're making the best choices, for them. When you target children who aren't old enough to vote you out of office, that's a pretty good red meat, target. Right? If you target the LGBTQ community, we're not strong enough individually. But when the LGBTQ community joins with the Jewish community and the African American community, then we become the majority. And that's when we have some say. And the physical location of where our capital is in Tallahassee makes it very hard for people to protest. I mean, it's up in the middle of nowhere. If it was in Tampa, we would be able to pressure a lot more people.
But the legislature is also crafting legislation to suppress protest. Okay.
They are. Look at
Listen.
DeSantis was right after that. He just does not want any.
Yeah, you can run them down. You can run people down in the road in the state of Florida if they block the road during a protest.
They block it. Yeah, it's
And
disgusting.
one of the most draconian things that's going on up in Tallahassee is the inability for citizens initiatives.
Well, they're taking that
to go
away, even on a
forward.
local. They're going from local level all the way up. They're making it so difficult for anybody, a regular citizen, to go ahead and protest appropriately. Not even protest, but put something on, on the bills, or put something, on the voting block. They don't want that. The voters voted. And if you talk to the majority of people, they are okay with LGBTQ, everything. So why all of a sudden is this, where is it coming from? It's coming from somebody at the top who that's their private agenda, and they're funneling it to every citizen. And yet,
but it's really harming people, and it's harming the
everybody.
state.
It's harming society. It literally, and then talk about dividing families. Okay, who's to say a woman and a man have a loving family for that child? You can have a wife and a wife, a husband and husband, who have more love in that family. And then now you're introducing some, this bill that's going to put the teacher in the way of declaring to maybe a family that has that DeSantis mentality, to put that kid in jeopardy of even opening up more, and they're going to put them in a shell, and they're going to cause more psychological damage of that child. It's craziness. And they don't even think things through when they're talking. And where's the input from experts on this? They don't even take it. They don't care.
They've never taken a course on diversity and inclusion.
No.
I have a degree in that from Cornell University. I've offered to go up and speak to them, and they say, "Oh, well, we'll get back to you." They haven't bothered to learn about the community in which they want to dehumanize and pass legislation against. And that's one of so many concerns that we have. But I feel the pendulum should be swinging the other way. Teachers should be talking about this. In fact, other parents should be talking about this. My 5-year-old should not be his responsibility to educate other kids and other people in his school. The teachers, and God forbid other parents, can just simply have a book that shows biracial families, single families, blended families, gay families, just so they could see that we have books here, all different kinds of families full of love is what it's titled. And it seems so easy, and it shouldn't be my son's responsibility at 5.
No, at 5 years old.
Well, listen, if they ban the books,
well, then they're banning books. Well, did you hear one of these? There was a woman, I don't know if you heard this woman. She was like down in Miami or somewhere, and DeSantis was speaking, and she claimed that the books that her children are being shown right now are making her children gay.
I have personally had that conversation with someone at my kid's own school who feels
like,
that if they
wow.
learn about this, that their kid will then be gay. And I
Yeah.
told
Yeah,
told
that's
them
what this
no,
lady.
it's not how
You
it
know
works.
what? Listen, I want to give my perspective. And you know, Ruta, I never get through a green room without saying I'm going to be 66. No, listen, my generation, and I lived in a fraternity house, Jordan, and you'll love this, with literally 100 Jewish guys. It was the Sigma Alpha Mu house down in Columbus, Ohio. Okay. And we had a lot of gay members in our fraternity, but we didn't know who they were. You couldn't come out back then, literally. You couldn't. And we did. We lost a couple brothers to suicide. When we were 30 or so, and we heard that a brother had passed, it was either suicide or HIV/AIDS, because that was the era, seriously.
Yeah,
And we would always, amongst the rest of us, say, wow, he was gay.
Yeah.
So I've seen how we've progressed, and it just fascinates me how, and this is why I'm live streaming today's green room, which I typically don't do, but this is important. In the news conference, once again, that Nikki sponsored the other day, and I think it was Michelle Rayner again that said it, we need to promote what they're doing up there. The press needs to get involved. Everybody needs to get involved. The only way this changes is with grassroots voting support by those that are complacent. And if they don't get involved, 5 years from now, we're going to be living in an unbelievably draconian society.
We will. And you know, one of the big things is first, people forget that, you know, so my son's in kindergarten. He's not being taught algebra, right? So teachers already know what's age appropriate. So this law is a slap in the face when it's trying to say that teachers or educators don't know what's age appropriate. And, you know, to that extent, on a personal story, my kid's first day of school this year, hand to God truth, every kid brought in a picture of their family. And during that week, they each got time to talk about their family. Under this law, what's my son supposed to do next year? Are they going to just skip over him? You know, I mean, it makes no sense. There's laws that target LGBT kids. And then there's laws that target families like ours. I don't know if my son's gay or straight. I mean, he's 5. But the fact that these conversations are already happening because in an appropriate setting, because the kids are naturally not hateful. They just ask, you have 2 dads? Oh, cool. I can't tell you how many of his friends joke or say to their parents, I wish I had 2 dads. That would be cool.
Now that's, yeah. That's the point.
And that's the thing of kids. That's why they're kids. And why are you wanting to introduce hatred? Or
in
divisiveness to these
2022,
children?
we've got enough on our plate, guys.
Yeah.
Listen, Tallahassee,
Yeah.
listen up, okay? We've got enough going on right now. Focus on what's important.
So if you would imagine before this legislative session, even if the legislators and all Floridians made the top 10 list of what needs to be done, this social war would not be on it, right? This culture war. And so, but you know, fixing environmental issues or fixing unemployment, that's not sexy and spicy. It doesn't get the base riled up. And so that's what this is, you know, and it's unfortunate, but it's been calculated that it's not going to affect enough people, you know, at the state level, because you know, you mentioned the HIV/AIDS epidemic. That was a crucial point in empathy for the LGBTQ community. Lots of deaths in the 80s. And then here, in you know, once 2015 came around and marriage equality, a lot of those families that had sadness now saw gay family members getting married, having kids, like my family, my parents. They didn't think I'd ever be able to have a family or have a kid. Now they have a grandkid, and it's very, you know, makes them full of joy. If at a federal level you try to take that away, there would be severe backlash because everybody knows somebody who's gay and it's personal to them. But when you go into a more microcosm, like a state issue, now you're talking about the state of Florida and you're trying to target specifically LGBTQ kids or families, it just doesn't touch as many people. And they've done the math on it, unfortunately.
Listen, Jordan, I don't want to freak you out. You put DeSantis in that White House, buddy, with the Supreme Court that we have right now. Okay. And I'm not so sure that we're not at risk federally.
That's true. I mean, if he gets up there,
we're looking at Roe v. Wade right now. So when you put together your coalition and you talked about gay pride, Jewish. Let's add women's rights. What else is going on up there? Let's add freedom, voting rights,
Just all
everybody, all
human
rights.
rights. Like, this is the thing that I don't even understand. It's 2022. And
It's a
we're-
bizarre
it's a
world,
bizarre-
man.
Why isn't it just human rights? I don't care what you are, who you live with, who you marry. It's
And I'm gonna
human rights.
transi-
Everybody's human.
and I'm gonna
Why do we have to
I'm going
make
to
a label
transition
on
right now
people?
to
It
national
pisses
and
me off.
international. Shame on those Republicans that are not behind our president
Oh,
right
Jesus
now at this
Christ.
critical moment. Okay.
An awful moment.
And I say, I don't know, the GOP posted something with Biden walking away after a news conference. This is what weakness looks like. That's almost traitorism to me. We all need to line up behind our commander in chief right now. This is a critical time, everybody. I don't want to see World War III. Okay. I don't want to see free countries, okay, being annexed by a madman who is Putin, who's not a
Who's
genius.
supposedly a genius, according to Trump.
And
Yeah,
It's shameful.
that whole thing, right now we're in a society where if Biden goes right, those who don't like him say it's wrong. If Biden goes left, they say it's wrong. It's a lose-lose situation. They're going to criticize him no matter what. And like you said, in a time like this, if our country doesn't show unity, then Putin's over there laughing, saying, this is why I can do what I want to do.
No, I think honestly, we're beyond that point. I think Putin, I think, sees there's a weakness in the United States.
Putin
right
needs
now.
to be brought
There's a
down from
divisive-
within.
Well,
That's why the
but he
sanctions,
won't be.
the sanctions need
He
to hit
won't be.
the sanctions need to hit the Russian oligarchs that are going to lose money. Okay,
Those oligarchs don't worry about that. You have to
well,
understand.
Ruta,
they
please
don't.
educate me
No,
because I
this-
thought money always was the
No,
motivator.
well,
for everybody.
the money's a motivator. They want to annex the Ukraine. They want to go through the Baltics. Then they're going to have China go into Korea or whatever, Taiwan. And for Putin wants the Soviet Union back. That's it. And so he's going to start. He knows World War III will not break out. He knows the United States is divisive. The oligarchs, they have their money. They have billions in the bank. They do not worry about a day that goes by that Putin's going to start an invasion. That's not their concern. In fact, they'll probably make money off the war, like the United States does.
Prison,
So,
the military industrial complex.
but
of
giving
course,
them
yeah.
a slap on the hand, I'm just telling you, Putin, you don't think he anticipated sanctions? The man's smart. He is not like Trump in that sense. And he's former KGB. The guy's been planning this his whole life. The guy has an ego. He's supported and loved by his countrymen. The people of Russia, they love him. I'm telling you, they love him. If you go outside to the former USSR, Lithuania, Ukraine, all the Baltics, all of those countries can't stand him. But his own people love him and they will die for him. So if he's doing a cry bear, battle for cry, like saying, let's go to war. And he's like, that's my cry. They're going to follow him and the troops are there and they're going to love it. And he's going to be like, we're bringing back, Mother Russia. And that's what they want. And so I don't think sanctions, to be honest, I read today, Biden's sanctions, they were laughable. And I was talking, we have a Ukrainian girl that works for us and her family, unfortunately, this morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, their time, they were woken up by sirens. They're bombing already. That's it. The bombs are already hitting the Ukraine. Sanctions working, they don't care.
I have a friend who lives in Kyiv right now. He's a U.S. citizen. He was ex-military here in the United States. Went over there as a war correspondent. Met his wife, and they got married. And he lives there. And same thing. This morning he posted. Woke up to hearing the sounds of the bombs and missiles.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think Putin and his advisors, he said, what is the absolute worst they can do to me, since they've already said it's not going to be military.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, okay, I accept whatever this worst case scenario is, move forward.
Yep. And that's the case. And so unfortunately, I think like I was talking to Zoya, who works for us, and her family, they live in the village right on the border of Russia. So they actually, her husband this morning picked up her mom and moved her to like 45 minutes away because the bombings, the military is already moving in. So
and that's real life.
And that's real life. And so
but what scares me is the authoritarianism. You say they love Putin.
They do. They love
we have too many people in this country that still love Trump,
Yeah.
right? Which is why I once again say that we, as the progressive kind of, people in the country, we need to make sure that we're loud, we're roaring like lions. We let everybody know about this lunacy up in Tallahassee, and we fight. Listen, we're usually a medical cannabis show, the Green Room. And as a first responder, Jordan, just to tie that in, freedom is freedom. That's why I think it's so hypocritical in a lot of ways what comes down from Tallahassee. Mass mandates yet. Yes. Women's right to choose. No. Right.
Right. Could you imagine
Max,
when I was in my capacity as a police officer, if I said, oh, I'm responding to a Jewish home. Nope, I don't want to help them. I mean, that's illogical, right? It would violate my oath of office. And, one of the things that I've always said would be great as a police officer, I've taken 3 polygraphs and I've passed all 3, by the way. And, wouldn't it be interesting if the politicians who say they back the blue have to actually take polygraphs before they run for re-election and answer simple questions like if they violated their oath of office?
You know what? That's an awesome thing.
Yeah,
it is.
Show that they really back the blue.
Hey, Jordan,
do they really back the blue?
Before we get off, so appreciative of you being here. Tell us about your organization and how people can get behind you and support it.
Yeah,
and
so
make sure that their voices are heard along with you. And that's what we always like to make sure that, you get to promote what you do best.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm the president of Project Pride here in Sarasota. We are the organization that was able to get the city of Sarasota to issue its first ever proclamation for June Pride last year. In Sarasota's history, that never had happened. If you go on Coconut and 2nd Avenue, we've got a big, 5-way mural. That's a progress mural that includes not just the trans colors, but also colors for our Black and brown communities that have been underserved. Our main goal is to unite, support, and celebrate the LGBT community and our allies. And we have a philosophy where, rising tides lift all boats. So if we help each other, we all do better. One of our big things is, even this Sunday, this weekend, I've been doing interviews from Tampa to Fort Myers we're holding a rally on Sunday at 12:30 against all the stuff that's going on in Tallahassee on the Ringling Bridge.
Don, we'll try and post that up on our page and stuff like that. It's Sunday 12:30. Where, Jordan? Because I plan on being here
at the Ringling Bridge. We have a 700-foot pride flag that we're going to bring with us in protest of what's going on in Tallahassee. And our nonprofit is projectpride.org. And you can go on there and you can see everything we do, from our June Pride events to our yearly events, to scholarships that we're setting up for students graduating from high school to help them go to college. All the money we raise as a 501c3 nonprofit stays here in Sarasota. It doesn't go into other states or whatnot. It's here to help our community. And I've been doing it for about the past 2 years, and I really enjoy it.
Awesome. I feel much better because I totally butchered your introduction in the beginning. And Ruta, let's talk about voting once again, because we know we have our ballot thing coming up, right?
Yeah, on March 3rd. And it's really important. If you drive around town, the Republican Party has spent a lot of money putting up signs all over Sarasota, like vote yes on both questions. For the teachers, we say yes, we want to support the teacher funding and support the teachers. However, there's an initiative to take away single member districts. And on that, we definitely want people to say no. The people voted loud and clear in the last election that they wanted single member districts. And what that means is we used to have 5 districts in Sarasota. And when you ran for office, like I ran for county commissioner, you had to run the whole gamut, meaning from North Sarasota, from University Parkway, all the way down to Northport, which was physically impossible to contact that many lives if you needed to. So what happened is there was an initiative that someone brought forward to bring back single member districts, meaning you only have to run in the district that you live, which for everybody, it equated to about 200,000 people, which is really relatively small when you're running an election. And you actually have more input to meet with the constituents that you're going to represent.
Knock on them doors.
Knock on the doors. Well, it passed and the county commissioners didn't like it, because what happens is it takes away some of the districts lean a little bit more blue, and some now can swing.
So they've already voted once and it passed.
They did.
And now they're going to slip it in this little election.
So now this little election where they're pumping tons of money in to reverse the will of the people. So even though the people have voted clearly and decisively, they said, oh, they didn't understand the bill. Oh, they didn't understand what was on, the ballot. ballot. So let's change it. So for everybody listening, please vote no. Keep single member districts. Don't give the commissioners what they want. And it's actually not even the commissioners. It's the people who back the commissioners. So just go to the builders and you'll see where the money flows.
And so don't let complacency take over is the message of the green room today.
Yeah,
you're
Register
right.
to vote, get
And watch-
active, go to the rally. Go
And
to the
watch
rally
how,
on Sunday.
watch how they've written that amendment. It's
I know.
confusing. My 72-year-old mother was confused by the way that the verbiage of that, and she voted the way she did not want to vote on that initiative because
Wow.
of the way that they wrote it.
No, and and they do that obviously on purpose. Yet they said when the initial ballot was, the initial question was on the ballot about single member districts, which was written very basically like in like third grade English, so people could understand. People voted yes, that they wanted it. The commissioners insultingly, especially Commissioner Mayo at one of the county commission meetings said, our people of Sarasota just do not understand that kind of language.
Well, he's the anti-cannabis guy
he's-
too.
he's the
So
anti-everything
yeah.
guy, so it's-
Listen, Jordan, I look forward to meeting you on
And
Sunday.
please pray
Pleasure
for
to-
Ukraine and please support
Yes.
our community here
Right.
and you
Positive
know, it's
thoughts.
positive thoughts for everybody. Fight. And for those listening, I don't think so. A lot of people aren't aware what goes on in Tallahassee. You need to tune in and see what goes on in Tallahassee because it affects a lot of lives and it's regressing and it's taking away our rights. Our topic today actually was, is Florida really free? If you're looking at what's coming down the pike from these legislators, it is going downhill and freedom's not on it. So
The repression is
it's
overwhelming.
horrendous.
So let's all get active and
And on
let's
a
do what we
Sunday,
can.
spend a Sunday afternoon, come out to the Ringling Bridge and support
Right.
our
I will
LGBTQ
be there.
community. So that'll be awesome. Jordan, a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank
And
you all for
thank
having
you.
me. I appreciate it.
And thank you for fighting. a
See you
good
Sunday.
fight.
Keep up the good fight.
Thanks, everybody.
will
See you
do.
next week.